of them do not pay for their water consumption. Yet, agriculture in Jordan and the Jordan Valley consume 60% of the water. And on what? They grow tomatoes and they grow watermelons. And we re-export these to the outside world every summer or every winter, so we are re-exporting our water. We are the second poorest country in the world. That brings me to the idea, is this my rightful share as a Jordanian citizen? Yes, it is. So where is it wasted? So sometimes it's not only water, environment, and energy, it's also politics. Rightful share, and politics here is not about the political system that you're dealing with. It's about your rights as a citizen within a country to have your rightful share, to have your clean rightful share. Exactly, that's the reason why you're paying your dues and taxes, that you get back what you're what you're doing for. In the perspective, and I'm not going to take long, in the perspective of combining water, energy, and environment, and as the first commissioner from our side on the Red Dead, on the project, you know, the Red Dead. The Red Dead is an excellent example of the three sectors. بس يخلص التليفون. اسمح لنا نكمل؟ شكرا. The combination of the three in the Red Dead is bringing the salt water from the Red Sea, which is, by the way, is a sodium-based saline water, bringing it all the way to the Dead Sea, pouring it from a level of height of almost 420 meters, thus creating energy, hydraulic energy in that process, and then giving the saline water or the brine water to the Dead Sea, raising the level of the Dead Sea, and thus solving an environmental crisis. This is the combination of the three. Along this perspective, I think this is the right formula, that we look for projects that have the combination of three. We cannot afford, let me go back to the political, as organizers, managers of water resources or energy, and I am the president, I'm proud of that, of EDAMA, which is the private sector organization responsible for clean energy, clean water, and environment. We cannot afford, as politicians, managers, governmental officials, or even private sector, to supply water if it's not clean, with clean energy and in clean environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahasneh. I agree with you that we do have to have some more projects implemented, in particular by the private sector, which takes into consideration the three components of the Nexus: energy, food, and water. And one such project that we are just started implementing by the Royal Scientific Society, it's called the MENA Region Initiative as a model for Nexus approach to renewable energy technologies, or we abbreviate it as MINERIT. It's a 4-year project that deals with the Nexus on a regional level, Jordan, Lebanon, and Tunisia, and this project was, or is being financed by the SIDA, the Swedish International Development Agency, and we are trying to take the Nexus approach to deal with it on a regional level, not only in Jordan, but on a regional level, and we hope to expand our scope to include the whole region, as a matter of fact, not only these three countries. Without a doubt, there is economic benefits for stakeholders when it comes to applying the Nexus. And maybe we can, talk about what are the economic benefits that we might be able to achieve from applying the WEF Nexus. I'll start maybe this question to Dr. Matar, if you can be kind enough to answer this question, please.
Thank you. Before we go back to that question, maybe it's important to stress what is behind the concept of nexus between energy, water, and food. I think the important message we would like to communicate that we cannot lay down any policy for water, for example, but without looking to its effect on energy and food. And first, each policy when we need to lay down any policy for one of these components, we need, as a policymaker, we need to test its effect on other two elements. Let's take, for example, ethanol. Ethanol, what is the knock-on effect of ethanol? One symbol is food price is going up. Water has been used. Land use for growing other crops has been minimized. So as a policymaker, when we decide for a project, we would like to take all 360 dimension degree, look into that project, what that project will affect, how much energy it will need, how much water it will need. Take, for example, shale oil, shale gas. It's available in different parts of the world, but not everybody has taken steps to engage in fracking. One of that element prevent some members, some state from engaging in that process is the water. What sort of effect it will have on the water, what sort of effect it has on the environment. So that concept, that process, that thinking, we will try to promote when we speak about nexus, that no policy need to be done in silo without coordinating others. So all these three elements, and we could add to that the climate change. The three elements plus the climate change, they are interact with each other. We are seeing in the last decade or so, there's growing hurricanes in an area that has never experienced that hurricane. Some drought, shortage of rain, increase of rain, flood. So all this are a sign that we need to keep in mind. Going back to your questions here regarding the economic, I think the economic impact, if we coordinate the policies, that will save us a huge amount of money not to clean up the mess that will happen if we let things going as it is. For example, investing in food for energy, regardless what it has effect on land use for other crops, regardless what has an effect on the price of other food, regardless what has an effect on the price of energy, regardless how much it consumes from water. I think that economic need to be evaluate before we go ahead with any project. Thank you.
تفضل دكتور محاسني.
My attention was drawn to a conference that was held in UAE in Dubai, I think last year. It was about economies after the collapse of the oil prices. And one of the discussions there was more important, or was focusing on what would be the economics of the region after the collapse of the revenues from oil. And definitely, one of the aspects would go towards renewable energy. What we would think of is we would lose a lot of political climate, or say we would lose a lot of economical and political climates with the loss of revenues. And it is not affecting only the Gulf states. It's affecting the whole of the Arab region. And back to the politics of it, we would have to think of reform. This region has to go into the reform, and that reform has to go into two pathways. One, the political reform, and secondly, the socio-economical reform. And we definitely have the three sectors within these pillars. First of all, if you're talking about rightful share, back to my original statement about rightful share of clean water, you are talking about my political rights and my economical rights and revenues and obligations. That has to be taken in consideration, that it is not because the development of the science and technology in renewable energy, it's also because it's environmentally clean. And the world has taken that at least ethical path that you're now penalized even if you're a great country according to your CO2 emissions. For God's sake, we in the Arab world, in this part of the world, not talking about the political rights, freedom of speech yet, this is not the platform, though I'm a strong advocate of that, but talking about my right as a citizen to have a clean water, clean environment, and cheap energy resources without affecting the environment and without creating a lot of CO2 emissions. That is the focal thing to concentrate on politically and socio-economically. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahasneh. Now, if we try to look at why isn't the Nexus being adopted by the region, what are the barriers that hamper the adaptation of such principle? Maybe we should talk a bit about this, Mr. Zaghloul, if you know, what are the barriers that stands in the face of adaptation of
Actually, in my view, the barriers is that it's not as much as a barriers as much as people always feel comfortable where they are, and it's very hard to move to the second level or a new area. And hence, like if you are in the water sector and you know everything about, you know the most about the water sector, you try to stay there. If you are in the food area, you are comfortable, so you stay there. If you are in the energy sector, then you are comfortable sitting there. So I think the barrier, it's frankly, it's us before anything else, of how we can look at the three things together. In my view, and actually in response to to the previous question on the economical impact of looking at the nexus of energy, water, and food, I think innovation in this sector will probably create new sectors with new ideas that can create a new dynamics where you'll be able to create jobs, opportunities, and investments. So we need to think along these lines more than it's just looking at the policies in each sectors and how we can bring them together. Like what we did in the renewable energy in Jordan. We created a whole new sectors and we brought so many investments because of our needs for energy and lack of natural energy that we have in Jordan. We can do the same thing within the nexus of energy, water, and food.
I do agree that the sectorial issues that we are facing, the water sector works by itself, the energy sector works by itself, the food sector and so on, probably is, like you said, is the biggest barrier toward the implementation of such a concept, in addition to the lack, for example, lack of knowledge of the nexus itself among the people who are working in this sector could be also another barrier to implementation of the sector. Maybe also the lack of participation in some cases of the private sector in implementing such projects, because like you said, we are specialized in renewable energy and this is all we know, but we need projects that contains all three elements of the nexus to make people aware that this approach is a very economical and very beneficial to the stakeholders in general. Dr. Matar, if you'd like to add anything to that, please.
Thank you. No, I agree that integration is between the three elements is a key in solving the nexus. What we ask only about that to bring that concept to the attention. So people in the policy decision need to be aware that whatever they will decide in food and energy and water, they need to know that will have some sort of effect on other two elements in the climate change. Back to the renewable fossil fuel, I think this is a little bit different because again, to bring you to the portfolio of each country, what sort of portfolio, what sort of energy portfolio they need to adopt, how much. Take, for example, United Arab Emirates, an oil-producing country. Nevertheless, they launch an ambitious energy strategies with 50% of its strategy will be coming from clean energy, renewable and nuclear, and 38 will be coming from gas, and 34 and 12 will be from coal. Nothing from liquid that will be used to generate electricity. So each country with its uniqueness will adopt a certain policy as a portfolio for its energy. Some country that they might be comfortable to burn liquid to produce electricity, where other countries they will be has other source could use. So I don't believe there will be one prescription for all countries that they need to use one element of source. Whatever source available, I think the world is need all source of energy. All source of energy, they will complementing each other. Each country has its uniqueness to adapt that sort of energy that is compatible with its circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask Dr. Duried, what public policies do you think, such as incentive mechanisms, or tax breaks and so on, will help in removing these barriers?
This brings me back to politics, and unfortunately I'm not very successful in actually dealing with politics. That's why I'm not in the government anymore. One aspect of it is, for example, I give you, at the moment, at this existing moment, we have two mega projects in Jordan taking place. One is the Red Dead, and the other one is the nuclear reactor. While the Red Dead in its complete form should provide Jordan with almost 800 million cubic meters, we have the distinguished Secretary General of the Water Authority also here with us, a very good friend, and he knows the figures. We cannot, and the cost is almost similar to the nuclear, we cannot apply that mega project. We're doing what is a micro Red Dead and producing only 65 million cubic meters of fresh water. While at the same time, for Jordan. While at the same time, we don't know anybody else except Jordan. While at the same time, we have the mega project of the nuclear reactor costing the same thing to produce energy in a country that has sunlight for more than 300 days a year and consuming 40 million cubic meter of water dedicated for agriculture. Now this would be taken for cooling of the nuclear reactor. You tell me as a stakeholder, as a Jordanian stakeholder, why the hell are you going ahead with the nuclear reactor thing and not doing the Red Dead? I would say simply, this is wrong. For political reasons, I cannot say this is stupid. I would say this is wrong at this stage. This is where we say as stakeholders or as policy makers, I respect what my colleagues talked about policy making, but policy is to be taken by the people. And for God's sake, this is not communism. This is practice of democracy. And in terms, and I'm not talking about the type of the political structure per se in foreign policy. Yes, we are one of the best foreign policy countries, our behaving in terms of friendship with the others and so on. But in terms of usage of our resources, this should be taken in consideration. In a sound political system where you have the stakeholders, the people talking, and the parliament expressing their point of view, I would say, stop this, I need the water. In a country that has limited water resources and consumes 60% on agriculture that produces 5% revenue to the GDP, I would say this is wrong. So definitely there is an interaction between the policies and the political and socio-economical decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahasneh. Now I would like to open the floor for discussion. If any of the attendees would like to ask a question to the panelists or would like to have a comment on the what was said today, you are more than welcome. في ميكروفون هنا في لو سمحت تعرف عن نفسك وعن مؤسستك وبعدين اسأل السؤال أو الملاحظة. لا هان مظبوط هان الأخ هان.
إلا إذا بدك.
شغل المايك بر الله ورا لو سمحت.
We can hear you, please.
This is fine if you can hear me. Okay. I would like everybody else to hear me. Yeah, everybody here. Okay, let me second distinguished panelists in thanking for organizing session on this topic. It's a new topic, it's a complicated topic, but it's moving worldwide. And we are just catching up ourselves in the region. Concept has been. I would like to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Hamboul Amrani. I'm from Morocco, working for the GIZ, the German Cooperation Agency, and I'm an advisor to the Ministerial Water Council in the League of Arab States.